Our final speaker is a contributor to the collection, Lilian, who is a PhD student in political science at York University. Her current research focuses on eco-socialism, green jobs, and recycling in Buenos Aires and Toronto.
Thank you. From deforestation, toxic pollution, to greenhouse gas emissions, there is no doubt that tar sands development has been and will be an immensely destructive force. First, for the communities who are already living within its reach, but through its effects on global climate for the planet as a whole as well. There are people here today who can attest, better than me, to the destruction and the diabolical delusions of this kind of development. And I say development in quotes, because even though it can be a monstrous abuse of words to liken it to development, that is precisely what some people, oil executives, financial capital, political elites, amongst others, consider it as. They see it as just another form and strategy of accumulation, as just another way of turning a profit. And we're all here to say, hell no. But if we're here to say no, then to what will we say yes? What kinds of alternatives can we propose to this development that can sustain our communities? What can we put on the table? These are the questions that we try to explore in the chapter in the book that we wrote, and that I wish to briefly address here today. There are, of course, no easy answers, but I do wish to outline what the beginnings of an eco-socialist vision might look like. In recent years, one very popular solution to the climate crisis and to the environmental crisis in general is what we call in our chapter market ecology. What proponents of market ecology propose is to put a price on nature and on pollution, to monetize, capitalize, trade, and provide private property rights to the environment, and let the market do the rest. In this logic, higher fossil fuel prices will encourage conservation and the switch to renewable energies, while carbon trading will facilitate emissions reduction in the most economically efficient way possible. But of course we know that rising fossil fuel prices is precisely what makes extreme energy like the tar sands profitable, and therefore its systematic development possible. And pricing carbon can just as easily lead the market to encourage expansion of the tar sands, while at the same time grabbing land from other people in other places to build tree plantations large enough to offset the carbon emissions. So clearly where market efficiency is concerned, justice is nowhere near its top priority. On the other hand, trade unions and environmental organizations who don't want to endorse this kind of free market rhetoric instead propose that the state must step in, preferably with stimulus money, to take the lead in creating green jobs and leading the transition into renewable energies. This perspective we have called institutional ecology. Here the state is expected to set environmental standards, rules, and targets, and public investment is supposed to leverage private investment into research and the building of renewable energies, low carbon infrastructure, energy efficiency, and environmental remediation. Subsidies to polluting industries would be removed and instead channeled into green industries. This, they argue, would create more jobs, since green industries tend to be more labor-intensive than dirty industries. The state is also called on to provide retraining and social safety nets to provide a just transition for workers who lose work in polluting industries, so that it's not workers who disproportionately bear the consequences of green structural change. To its credit, institutional ecology at least understands that to get the market to do what you want it to do, you must either outright tell it or cajole it to do so. There's no magic, just a more or less heavy dose of micromanagement. But micromanaged or not, in this view, market economies are here to stay. And in a real sense, this is better than doing absolutely nothing at all. But if we are truly concerned about social and environmental justice, it is not enough. Simply switching to renewable energy and other so-called green industries does nothing to challenge the addiction to capitalist growth that has proven so harmful for our communities and for ecosystems the world over. It also does nothing to address the profound inequalities that underpin the social fabric of capitalist society. Seeking state intervention in economic life is not enough without also demanding the democratization of the state. Switching to renewable energy in itself does not ensure that workers' rights are respected or that people have equal and sufficient access to energy and other basic necessities of life. Capitalist production systematically treats nature, both human and non-human, simply as a means to an end, as so many interchangeable inputs to production. And it is ultimately this institutionalized and pathological behavior that makes capitalist production the source of so much injustice. We suggest then that it is necessary to push beyond simply the search for green jobs within an alienating, commodified, and growth-obsessed society. Beyond simply divestment from fossil fuels and investment into renewable energy, which admittedly is no small task, we would demand energy democracy, that the production and distribution of energy be publicly owned and controlled through democratic and participatory planning, that research in renewable energies be publicly funded so that it can also actively engage in technology transfer. We could demand of a just transition that it extend beyond retraining and replacement wages for workers in polluting industries that get shut down. Rather than simply shutting down polluting industries according to market logic, we could demand that workers' rights be extended to include being actively and democratically involved in decisions around industrial conversion and plant conversion to low-carbon production. We could demand investment into free public transit, education, and other non-resource intensive but socially useful work. We could substitute unending individual consumption for collective consumption and qualitative development, replacing the acquisition of more things as a source of fulfillment with the development of meaningful relationships and personal growth, expanding common spaces and resources like parks, theaters, libraries, recreational areas, and workshops. We could seek shorter work weeks rather than increased wages and collective bargaining, sharing out available employment and gaining more personal time. Ultimately, rather than social production being based on the accelerated production of commodities for the endless accumulation of capital, social production can be rooted in decommodified production for the provision of needs based on democratic and participatory planning and worker self-management. We suggest then that a low-carbon, sustainable, and just economy requires not only new methods of production, it also requires a fundamental redistribution of resources, of decolonization, and other ways of understanding ourselves and each other. In short, it requires not only imagining, but also demanding other possible worlds. Thank you.
We have a website, aligninthettarsands.org, and a Facebook page under the name Align in the Tarsands. So you may want to check those out to find out more about the book